The Sorcerer's Apprentice, and AI affective labor. Rejecting the numerous recommended for me suggestions, I did some old school channel surfing the other night and landed on a 1960s Alfred Hitchcock classic, which strangely reminded me of generative AI. In the tale of The Sorcerer's Apprentice, a mentally challenged young man encounters a troupe of circus performers. The magician, who looks like the devil, and his lovely assistant wife, who looks like an angel, take the young man under their wing. The wife, far from being angelic, is a devious schemer, and through a series of manipulative suggestions, entices the young man to kill her husband. But in true Hitchcock style, there is a twist. The young man believes that possessing the magician's wand has turned him into a magician. Seeking to prove his magic skills, he attempts to saw the wife in half, a trick he has seen performed many times. And well, it ends as you might expect. Using generative AI is like having a magic wand. Instead of giving the user superpowers, the real trick in using generative AI is making people believe they have superpowers simply because they have used it. Much has been written about automation and how AI will impact the labor market. Yet there is another kind of labor that using generative AI is creating: affective labor caused by the use of generative AI. Recently, I was interviewed by a freelancer who was writing a profile about me and my organization. We did the usual online chat, which of course was recorded and I suspect also transcribed using some kind of digital tool, all of which is standard practice. The writer said they would send me a draft to review, which I could check for accuracy to ensure it reflected my story. I hadn't heard from them in over 2 months, so I sent an email just to see how things were coming along. The next morning, I received a draft for review. When I read the draft, my heart sank. This was either a very bad writer, a generative AI project gone wrong, or maybe a mix of both. My internal reaction was immediate and harsh. This is a hot mess. It reads like a transcript and has all the usual generative AI writing tells, such as over-the-top language, inaccuracies, and odd turns of phrase. I don't know this freelancer, but because they are a person, I care about them. I care about not wanting to hurt their feelings, but I also care about not letting them think this work is acceptable. I care about not wanting to come across as a precious a-hole in responding to them. I care about the time it will take me to address and resolve this when I could be doing other things. More coffee was clearly needed before making any decisions about what to do. I spent too much time stewing over my generative AI-induced angst, resentful of even being in this position. This is a place that more people will find themselves in at some point. Emotional labor is an unintended byproduct of generative AI. Writing almost always involves a relational aspect. Time spent thinking about how to navigate relationships that become entangled with AI-generated content is real work. The other day, a colleague mentioned a similar situation where a poorly written proposal was submitted to them. They suspected AI was used, but it was not disclosed, so it was hard to tell for sure, but the usual generative AI signs were there. The person who wrote this proposal felt it was acceptable to submit it as is. What should be done to fix this situation? Should my colleagues spend time editing or even rewriting the document? Should they spend time providing detailed feedback about why it's subpar, which might be more work than rewriting it themselves? Should they just let it go? Every choice involves a decision that will impact the relationship as well as the work product. There's always been poorly done work. This isn't new. How is generative AI the problem? Going back to Hitchcock, the problem is that people who would or could not have attempted to write a proposal or an article now believe that with the magic wand of generative AI, they can. They think that because 2,500 words are on a page and the output is somewhat coherent, the job is done. Or maybe they can actually produce a well-written product, but instead of starting the work with enough time built in to do a careful job, they dash it off at the 11th hour and call it done. The tool now allows for those types of options to occur because it quickly provides an output, even if it's a poor quality output. Perhaps the bigger issue is the underestimation of how a process shapes an outcome. The process of writing from scratch involves staring at a blank screen, thinking about what to write, doing research, reading through notes, formulating an approach, drafting a few attempts, scrapping those, and then eventually honing in on something. That process is lost when we start with a bot. Having an AI tool write a full draft and then doing a light edit isn't an equivalent process. Generating a transcript from an interview is similarly problematic if we are tempted to use the transcript as a draft rather than just refer to it as notes. It's the difference between renovating a house versus building a house. The fact that you start from an existing structure leads to particular choices. That's not to say a renovation can't be well done, but if the house doesn't have good bones, you are left compensating for the deficiencies from the start. Something similar is happening with generative AI writing. This new process also creates the affective labor of deciding how to navigate the relationship. It offloads work from the original writer to other people in the editorial process who may have to rewrite the work created by the labor-saving generative AI tool or spend a lot of time giving feedback. This is new territory. If there isn't an etiquette or normative practice in place to be transparent about the use of AI, there is the awkwardness of asking someone if they used it. That comes with the implicit value judgment. Did you use AI, or do you just write like a bot? Navigating these interpersonal dilemmas is becoming part of the ethics of using generative AI. We can also evaluate how generative AI is shaping our habits. It can amplify our tendency to procrastinate because it's reduced the cost of taking this approach from an all-night cram session to a 30-second prompt. It can lead us to take on too many projects, driving the need to rely on it in order to meet our deadlines. This is what I suspect happened to this freelancer whose other writing is actually quite good. It also allows person A to appear efficient by shuffling off work to person B, who is left either accepting the lesser quality output, spending time fixing it, or providing feedback about it that presumably person A will fix. What will this mean for workplace relationships and teamwork? What if all the fixers get tired of playing this role? Are organizations going to find themselves left with poorer quality work? Will anyone care? There are no easy answers, no magic wand. Magic is always about creating illusions, and the illusion of productivity is generative AI's best trick.